So let me actually show you how easy it is to know your status. I just need 2 volunteers, guys.
Well, I'll do it.
I think, let me just go with the 2 ladies. You're closest to me. So, there we go.
Thank you.
And what you want to do is you want to open up the test. Okay. And it's really, it's 3 simple steps, guys. So you're going to remove the buffer pots from the top of the test device.
Let's see.
Where is this now?
Okay,
Where's
so the buffer pot is on top
Oh,
of
it's
the...
on top of this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everything is explained to you.
On the...
It's really easy. So you're going to remove the pots and you place it in the hole in the tray.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, hold on.
I want you to say something very suggestive now, but I'm not going to do that.
Okay.
Okay, so now what you want to do is you actually want to prick your finger. So remove the cap and
Oh, okay.
prick your finger. It's a tiny prick. There we go.
Did you prick your finger? Or
Yeah,
That
it was painless.
Am I doing it correctly?
Yeah, just push
Yeah, so
down.
Just push down. There you go.
That's it.
And then?
And then with the top of your test device, you just want to touch the drop of blood and your set will automatically collect the right amounts.
Okay.
You might need to push,
Yeah.
just press down on your finger just to create a bit of blood flow.
Okay. Wow, my blood said no today.
It's so easy.
And then what you want to do is poke the test through the foil in the buffer pots. Did you get enough blood there?
Hardly.
Try and massage your finger a little bit
Mhm.
in an upward motion.
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Okay.
So it only needs a
Okay.
tiny, tiny drop.
Just like
Did
that.
you poke it right through? Yeah. Yeah, that's it, guys.
And then it starts running.
Starts running, and in 15 minutes, you will know your results. You take the test out of and
Mm.
you're just going to place it in the tray,
Mhm.
and that is actually how you interpret your results.
Oh, wow.
Super easy.
Wade, thank you so much for coming through to WQMD today and opening our world to the world of self-testing. How can we, from here on, move forward to curb the spread and cure HIV/AIDS? And what projects and stuff are you busy with at the moment?
So what I can say, first of all, everyone should know their status. Test yourself at least every 6 months. That is the first step to ending the HIV epidemic. So what UNAIDS has said is we need 90% of people to know their status, 90% of those people to actually be on ARV treatments, and 90% of them to have an undetectable viral load. That is how we're going to stop the spread of HIV. More than that, have conversations about HIV, normalize it, normalize self-testing, normalize taking a pill every day to keep your viral load undetectable. Talk about what U equals U means. A lot of people don't know what it means. People have never heard about it. So tell your mates, hey, I just heard a person living with HIV who has an undetectable viral load cannot transmit the virus. That is stigma bashing stuff. People need to know about it because people have this idea of what HIV is and don't go near that person. No, it needs to stop.
To change the future behavior of society, obviously regarding LGBTQ, you need to change the behavior at school, and you need to educate them at school, and it needs to be part of the curriculum that we're no longer in a society where it's heterosexual relationships is the only way, but there's a variety of relationships that's reality and legal, and society and children, or especially at secondary and primary school, they need to know that that there are different kinds of relationships, and
they shouldn't be afraid to talk about it.
Yes.
I mean, it is part of our everyday society. The earlier the kids, I feel, get exposed to these things, it becomes a normalized thing. Whereas later in your life, where you get exposed to it, like, you fear it, you don't know what is happening, so you act a certain way towards it. Whereas you're young,
And Diane, apologies, what advice would you give to your peers about coming out? Looking back now, the lessons you've learned and who you are as a person now, what would you say to them?
I'm 22 years old now and I have studied. So I've been lucky enough to since then have grown up, especially in the performing arts industry, where it is kind of a safe space for everyone. So I'm quite lucky to have been through that process, being able to then start loving myself and be able to accept myself. Like in the beginning, I said to my parents, I don't want this. Now I'm comfortable. I wouldn't have it any other way. And that bright light at the end of the tunnel is so small when you're young. And so I think my honest advice would be just find that light. It might be in someone at school. Maybe there is a teacher that you can go to. Maybe it's a best friend. Maybe it's someone on the show. You can there is someone who will let you see that light. And I think through that, start talking to them. You don't have to tell it to the world. Just figure it out for yourself. You're the only person that matters in this whole equation. It's you. How do you feel about it? Am I okay with it? Yes. Okay. Now what? I did say to my parents at that stage, I want to go to just 1 or 2 sessions of therapy just to figure this out.
Yes.
And I was 16 years old. I was terrifying. It was my first experience with therapy. And the goal was to find out, am I gay? I think after the second one, we were supposed to have like 6 more sessions. And I just said to my mom, cancel it. I'm happy. I'm okay. I'm fine. I got my help. I understand where I'm at. And that confidence that I had was when I went to my parents with problems, or just, we were having a conversation about the LGBTQ community as a whole. My confidence was assuring them that this is a good thing to talk about. It's okay. He's still just our son. So yeah, I think just find that light.
What advice would you as parents give to other parents who might be in the same situation that you were?
Although this can be very scary, it's still your child. You need to love him and be there for him or her. It's your job as a parent. Get help if you need help. Don't try and do this alone.
There's
get
no
help.
harm in asking.
No, get help if you need help. But it's your child. Love him, support him, be there.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is our first reaction is, what did I do wrong as a parent? Where did I fail my child? What did I do to make him not a man, to be this creature? Because this is the perception out there.
Yes.
But you did nothing wrong. You did nothing wrong.
The big thing for me, it comes down to acceptance and loving yourself.
Yes.
And we need to start within the community to not, bash and hate and discriminate against our own kind. Because if we can't even practice what we preach within our own community, how do we accept society? How do we expect society to accept us?
Yes. It's so prevalent within the homosexual community as well to be judgmental towards someone that's a little bit more flamboyant than you, or someone that plays rugby, or so even within the homosexual community, someone might not like a trans lady and he will be judgmental towards her. And we actually as a community need to stand together and unite against the external homophobias that are your whatever group of people there might be, but we need to unite against them and not fight within ourselves or within each other to break the community down into further more.
But it comes from education. I mean, Tina, to be very honest with you, for example, like me growing up, I fought with this one chick as I was growing up. And I don't know why we were fighting as much and became such good friends. And it was because she was lesbian. And she hated what she saw in me, and I hated what I saw in her. Because we almost had what the other one needed. Yes, to be, society-wise, I was a little more flamboyant and she was a little more butch, and I was just like, okay, I would have actually been really good had I had that quality, and she saw the same in me, and then it shifted, and somehow there was an attraction that led to be like us being great friends, but I also do think that was a phobia, because I was just like, we would fight. I hate we don't even know each other, but that was the beginning. So it really is the education and the acceptance.
And honestly, access to information. It's in the smallest of things.
And
we do not have... Oh, sorry.
No.
We do not have enough representation on South African television. I'm not talking about the satellite dish television. I won't name names, but I'm talking about actual national television where millions of people are tuning in for free.
Yes.
We need to have more representation. Being flamboyant doesn't mean that you're gay.
Yes.
I have a feminine performative friend who is straight. takes care of himself.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean, what does gay look like? Who said that gay looks like this?
We've got a friend who does drag, but he's straight.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
Oh,
It's
wow.
not just bound to the,
See, I
to
didn't
the
know
homosexual
And
community.
those are
Yeah.
the things. That's
But
what
now,
I'm seeing.
a question in terms of confusion that the community would ask as well as the outside, like, so does that make him a part of our community because he's a drag queen artist but not gay?
Listen, whoever wants to be part of the community can be part of the community. Do you know what I mean?
No, like I agree with Tina. Like there's no set structure for who can be part of the community and who cannot.
Yes.
Life is all about finding and exploring and experiencing and coming to terms with who you are.
Yeah.
And if you want to be part of the community and you're straight, yes, become an ally.
Yeah, of course.
Like there's space for everybody.
It's
I
not
think it's
up
the
to-
evolving then. Sorry to break your word like that,
Yeah.
I think that we are ever evolving, and it's important for us to also stick with it as well, with the times, and understand that things are going to be shifting all the time. So there really is no space for homophobia, because seriously, what are you still holding on to right now? Things have evolved drastically.
You don't have to come out when you're at work. It's not a prerequisite. You don't need to involve your personal life,
Yes.
for the
that
people there.
corporate
And again, it comes down to a thing of you need to be comfortable with yourself, your environment. If you don't feel physically safe within that environment, you don't have to come out. But how does one deal with derogatory comments, people, hassling LGBT people who are out in corporate?
So, going back to what you said about not everyone being out, and I mean, I know for a fact that there are people that I know are LGBT, but they're not out at work, and I have to respect that because they're obviously just not comfortable. We try and create as comfortable an environment. We say we're not going to tolerate any discrimination, whether it's from your manager or from a peer. When it comes to those kinds of things, I suppose it becomes quite difficult in a corporate because we always mention this. So in induction, as an example, all our new employees go through an induction process, and I actually present to them to say, this is not something that we will tolerate. So if you're going to join this company, you must understand that you can't come to the office and tell a really derogatory gay joke and think that it's going to be funny, because not everyone's going to laugh at that joke. And we take to them, this could be quite a serious thing. If somebody decides to take you to HR and lodge a grievance, we are going to take it seriously. So you need to be very cognizant of that. So we don't try and scare people, but we just try and make them cognizant of the fact that this is not something we would tolerate, and we want to create an inclusive workplace where people can feel like they belong and they can feel like they don't need to be worried about who they are. They can bring their best self to the workplace. Dealing with it, like I said, you obviously have the HR route, which is the more sort of hectic route, but we try and just say, look, be open with your peers, be open with your manager if you can, and just say, look, I'm actually LGBT, I don't think that's the right word to use, but can I please, just maybe explain to you what would be the correct way? Because I think at the end of the day, sometimes it's also about learning.
Yes.
And it's always about
heterosexual people don't know a lot about the LGBT world, and vice versa, I would say. So you've got to be conscious of that as well, and maybe just pull them aside and just say, listen, you said this other day, it might have been a bit funny for you, but actually this is the incorrect thing to say. You should rather say this, and but funny joke, whatever, just be a little bit more mindful of that in the future.
Trying to ask you, so for us, for example, well, not in the Yaku, but we're not in the corporate industry, so our paths are very different. We have a platform where we get to express ourselves. I'm an entrepreneur. I walk into a corporate environment with saying, I am the brand. So whether you accept it or not, this is who I am. So I come with such conviction and confidence, and obviously I don't have to almost adhere to anything in terms of the corporate environment and who I get to deal with. What is that scenario like and that environment like for a corporate when you are actually a part of the community and you're walking into the building? What is that experience like?
You mean for a company that doesn't embrace LGBT, or that
Yes,
does?
but in general now, so you're heading into the corporate building, for example. So there you are.
Yeah.
You start in the corporate industry right now. You know your sexuality. What is it? What is the big fear? Is it the fact that I'm not going to be promoted? Is the fact that I'm going to be looked away? Where are we at in terms
Pretty
of-
much, yeah. I think a lot of we did a survey in some of our markets, and basically the majority of people said that. They said, we coming as a professional, we have been trained in XYZ, we can bring this skill to this particular company. Why should my sexuality involve, or be in any kind of way involved here? And I think, unfortunately, a lot of people look at it that way. They say, I'm going to join this company and I know that I can bring this, but the only way for me to succeed is to not be myself, because I'm not going to get promoted if I tell them that I'm a lesbian, or if I tell them that actually I have a partner at home and he happens to be the same sex. That is a huge fear, unfortunately. And people from university will say that they often look for companies that do support LGBT rights because they feel like, I don't want to go and work for a company that I have to feel like I can't be myself and still bring my professionalism and that kind of thing. So that's a huge fear, and I think that is what motivates a lot of younger people to try and work for those particular companies that are seen to be focused on LGBT. If they are not, like you said, they walk in and they think, okay, I've got to be this person at work and I've got to be that person at home. And you've got to be, they always say, if you are going to be somebody who tells lies, maybe not necessarily lies in this case, but you are putting on a face, you have to have a very good memory. And how difficult must it be for someone who goes into a company and every day you go and you've got to remember, what did I say to Susan? What did I say to John? Because if you change your story, they're going to go, but you said that last week. That is extremely difficult. And I think that's the fear that people have. They go and they go, how am I going to tell the story this week about what I did on the weekend without telling them that actually I have a same-sex partner? How do I tell them about the holiday that I went on without revealing potentially my personal life? And I think that's a huge barrier for people when they do walk into
I can only imagine it being a challenge, because obviously as colleagues you want to communicate, you want to chat. How was your weekend? What happened?
Exactly.
Oh, I went hiking, you know?
Well, the one thing I did realize when I became a dad as well is that our country is really broken. And I know we're trying a lot of things to fix our country and perception and all those things, but it's not there yet. And I think this has to start from the ground level, where you sort of build people up and explain to young kids, because we've had experience as well with little white kids in Pretoria that don't know how to respond to our son. Because I always say that idiots breed idiots. And I don't want to be that idiot that breeds another idiot. So I want to include people from the word go with regards to my son Sky. But it's been a difficult thing with my parents. I'm not saying that they will be fine in 2 months or 3 months' time. And I do believe that if they do come around, they will have to work extremely hard to fit into our society and our culture. That's pretty much it. But I think a lot of people go through that. One of the couples that went through the process with us as well has got a very similar journey. And it's nice because now I have support in that as well. So we can discuss and say, what did your parents say? This is what my parents said. And I think that when it comes to, especially to racism and same with homophobia, all these things, sometimes it's so deep rooted in people they don't even realize that it's there. And I think when you have a son as well, you then realize that you have to sort of address it from the word go and say, this is what your thought process is, let's address this level by level. When I came out as well, I had a clear indication in my mind that I've been fine for 30 years as a gay man. I can't expect people to be fine in one day. And I have a black son who's my life, and I don't expect people to be fine in 1 hour. But it's also not their choice or their place to be fine with it.
Absolutely.
And it's like very weird. And I think in society as well, there's misperceptions about adoption as well. People always think that it's adoptions, it's kids are in bad condition or they're going to grow up to be a criminal. All this. I've heard most random stories. So I've had an instance with us where we, in the Afrikaans community as well, because we are two men, my husband looks like a tattoo from his head to his toes. So we've had people being very verbal about it towards us, but we've learned to sort of deal with it.
With that being said, Jen, have you Kopala, have you ever heard anyone ask you about, will your son be gay? Because you're in a gay relationship. Have you ever had like that kind of talk?
I've had it. No, about you.
So I'm so opinionated. I think people are very scared. So no one's directly said it. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's people who think that. Like walking in the mall. Yesterday was my son's vaccines and he was crying, and walking through the mall, I had the thoughts that I hope people don't think I'm kidnapping this child in the mall. It's like, okay, cool, and then you have to like the thoughts of what other people are thinking, and so I guess people have the issues, but
no one's
if people are concerned about it, that's the last thing they should worry about. Whether your child is going to be like, it's kind of messed up worrying about this individual sexuality. Like,
it's stupid to think. It's stupid to think that queer people raise queer children. I mean, we were all raised by straight people, and I mean, here we are. So. Another thing that I also just want to bring up as well with regards to mental health and LGBT, especially with regards to medical practices. A lot of times LGBT people fear to go there because they don't think there's someone that will be able to assist them with their line of background, where they come from and the issues that they suffer. So a very interesting thing that I also discovered is called the Yellow Dot Doctor, which is a website where practices can upload their practice, where they specifically cater to the needs of LGBT people, where the doctors or the physician or whoever is on standby in that practice have gone through extensive training to be knowledgeable about the issues that LGBT people face.
Yeah, that's really good, because I've noticed a lot of people who do have anecdotes of that, and just doctors who want to do well and just never have the experience of sensitization to it. And like you mentioned before, there are a few other organizations popping up now that are doing sensitization training. I think Queer Well is a great one, and then there's also the Queer Wellness Center.
Queer Wellness Center that opened in Ravonia. Ilovo.
Yeah. It's going to be like...
I just wanted to add to what you said about the trained professionals. So it's really, the idea is to keep it informal and a really accepting environment. And I think the fear that I have is as soon as you have a more structured approach and that you lose that sense of connectivity within there. So the idea is really not to have a group therapy, but more just we are here,
engaging.
We are friends,
yeah.
Let's talk. And then as Rivona said, we'll refer, if someone has a need, we'll refer them to professionals for help. Yeah.
I have another question. So I find, just having read up, the trans community faces a lot of discrimination, and in your particular hubs, do you have trans people in the support groups? Do you have trans counselors who understand
their specific needs?
Yes, and their experiences. How do you navigate that?
I'm trying to do that.
I now I don't want to say anything problematic, so I'm check myself.
So again, we don't have trained counselors, because counselors are very, James is specifically a suicide line counselor, and we're just facilitators in the support group. But we have people who are gender non-conforming, trans, the range of LGBTQ. And what we do there is try and encourage enough of a safe space where you can share that experience, because to be honest, all of us, I think we all know, all of us in the community don't know enough about each other.
Yes.
And that stratifies us even more, and creates there's some bias within the LGBTQ community as well. And I think we shy away from talking about it because we want to show such a strong force as a community. But there's difficulties with being, with representing yourself in a certain way and being trans, that maybe a more privileged gay person might not feel comfortable with. And in the group we talk about the challenges that we face within the community as well.
But I think it's so important to have the conversation about the challenges, because it is about solving the problem from the inside and not just having a candy-coated little version of events to say, because at the end of the day, the program is for mental health, so everything needs to be an internal job, so if you don't know something about a transvestite, for example, trans person, sorry, I'm not sure the proper terminology, please correct me, you see what I'm saying? So it's it's so important to deal with it and to cure the problem from the inside, and to have this platform like WQMD as well, and like your hub, that we can actually start speaking about this as well, so that it lightens the load and the mental health that comes from that as well, because we're educating ourselves, and I'm informing the next person, I'm letting you know, okay, so I'm a gay person and this is how I see myself, oh, I'm lesbian, okay, I'm bisexual, oh, okay, and so what about, so to create that.
Why does it feel like there's not being enough done from government side?
Because there isn't enough being done from government side. It's one thing to have an intervention. It's one thing to have a strategy. It's one thing to have a policy. It's another thing to implement it on the ground. And with implementation means budget, it means resources, it means staff capacity. And oftentimes government is so bloated that people in those offices are doing nothing. So I'll give you an example. I sit with women, youth and persons with disabilities. Their mandate is supposed to be representing gender, women, members of the LGBT community, young people, and people with disabilities of all types of people. And what they do is they are a mouthpiece of government. So they come to our committee and they speak about things like, this is what we've done. We've met our target because we had 1 public participation. And I'm like, and they had last year when I just became an MP, they had a LGBT roundtable. And I went there and the activists said, we always come here. It's always the same thing. We come, we tell you what our issues are. In fact, we give you solutions and then nothing happens. And then next year, 16 days of activism, you'll call us back to tell us what. You don't even give us an update of the work you've done. So I do feel that government does not, if you feel it doesn't take it seriously, believe it. Because they don't. As somebody who sits on those benches, when we speak about the LGBT community, some people can't even pronounce the acronyms. You know, some people, we had a youth parliament and one of the guests corrected their pronouns and they were like, please call me they or them. And the MPs in the room who are older, and I'm not ageist, they laughed. They laughed because they were like, oh, ha ha ha, we don't understand. And I got really upset because if you don't understand, educate yourself.
But I mean, they are in positions where they are supposed to exercise, you know, these things, and it feels like they're just blatantly ignoring it and being arrogant and ignorant.
Because you're a representation of this country, and we are a part of the country.
Absolutely.
So are you basically telling me that they're doing all these things just for a tick in a box?
Absolutely. And I say this without fear or favor.
Yes.
I say this without fear or favor because I'm there and I see. So when they come to our committee and they speak about gender-based violence, we have to ask them, what about the LGBT community? What are you doing to make their lives easier? What are you doing about the trans community getting their IDs at home affairs or getting hormone injections at an affordable price or going to report a corrective rape at the police station and the police taking you seriously. This is government's responsibility.
Can I also say, just on that matter of transgender, there's only one facility in South Africa that does transgender reassignment surgery, and that is Grooteskier Hospital in Cape Town. But the waiting list is 27 years.
Correct. Yes, that's right.
And and they only do 4 surgeries a year. And I mean, like, how is that progressive? Like, how
2020.
How?
Yeah.
But then I just want to take it back as well, back to the LGBT community. So there's been, you can't open a newspaper or turn on the news and see of someone that has been a victim of this. I mean, for instance, Curvin Fortuin, Zwelinkosi Zulu, Smagat Yazi, just to name a few, but I mean, there's a lot out there. But it's not really being highlighted in the mainstream media. But we should be talking about this.
Absolutely. Yeah. In fact, I would argue that it's not highlighted in government as well. You know, when we have debates around gender-based violence, when we have roundtables around hate crimes, and you know, to be honest, for me, the LGBT community fall within gender-based violence. It's not something separate. It's something all of us, you know, have to deal with it. So when we speak about GBV, we're speaking about all types of gender-based violence, and not only domestic violence or femicide, you know. And so when we speak about this in all our different spaces, especially at a national government level, we have to speak about what are some of the solutions that we can come up with. And oftentimes you find these solutions in civil organizations, in the NGO space, in, you know, spaces outside of government that work with government.
And the thing is, it's not really their responsibility to take on this task. I mean, they're doing it because they want to do it.
Well, they're also giving solutions to the government.
Exactly. But they're giving solutions to the government, but the government is not taking it.
Yes, but are they following through?
I would argue no.
I want to ask now as well, in terms of, so that is you from an individual perspective.
Yes.
But remember that right now we have an entire country who focuses on television.
Yes.
And I mean, majority of our people are being fed through what is being broadcasted on local television. Not everyone has access to streaming at this very moment in time. You know? So a lot of people are still watching our local channels.
Yes.
What is being done there in terms of our narrative? And are we being expressed? Are stories being told? Are they authentic?
It happens, but not a lot. I mean, like.
If you take for instance Sim Nalan, who had the first transgender character on there.
Yeah.
A few K8 series who had their first interracial couple, and we had our first marriage on a local soap.
Yeah.
These are unfortunately all very Afrikaans-driven soaps, which is still, a bit frowned upon.
Yes.
But I'm glad that there is, people taking risks and people putting representation out there for people, especially in closed-minded conservative communities.
Yeah.
But we need to do more.
Yeah, no, definitely we do. I mean, if you look, Generations also had a couple of few. They had a transgender character, which wasn't really, it had its own issues that people felt like it wasn't well represented. We had a gay storyline back in the days, like 2009, 10, somewhere around that timeline, which was really quite an impressive because it was earlier on. There was still a bit of a taboo back then. We had a show on SABC One called After 9, which was, shows that were touching base. We had Intersections, which was a show on SABC One, which also touched base on queer men in the closet and on all of that. And I think it was gradually kind of coming into the scene, where it's been introduced to people as an ideology. But I think what we need to be focusing on right now is the fact that we want to be the center of the story. I think for the longest time, for the longest time, we're always the gay cousin or the gay friend or the gay brother. We need to have a whole story that actually informs people about who we are, our lifestyles, where we're going, what we do, what are the issues that we face in our everyday lives, and where are we going, because we have dreams.
But you see, that's also the problem, with media is they sugarcoat it. They don't, it's not authentic, it's not relatable, it's not truthful.
I read it from the outsider's point of view and I'm like, oh, I'm not gay. If that's the narrative, then I'm definitely not queer at all.